hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Earth's Mightiest Comics, the show where every week we talk about some recent comics and we give you our thoughts and opinions on all of the ones that we read, whether they be good or whether they be not so good. This week is the first week of the month, which I think is usually one of the weaker weeks of the month, typically.
Easily, yeah.
That being said, there is definitely still some good stuff here. We have stuff like, you know, we have some Avengers stuff to talk about. We have some Batman stuff to talk about. We have some Captain America stuff to talk about. The Void Rivals series has returned with this week, but of course, there's a new Ultimate book out this week, and so that is what we're going to be starting with. That is Ultimate X-Men #1, written and drawn by Peach Momoko. In fact, I think written in pretty much everything except lettered by Peach Momoko. So, new Ultimate book.
Yes.
This is. I think of all of the Ultimate books when they were all initially announced, while this was not the one I was most excited for, I think this was the one I was most interested in just to see how it went, because Peach Momoko is an incredibly unique creator. Her art style in particular is unlike essentially anything in modern like American superhero comics. It just does not. It feels much more, and I have not read much manga, but it feels much more kind of in style with a manga than it does just an American comic.
It's very mixed between the two, right? Because it flows like an like a regular comic book, but then just the art style is just very manga-esque.
Right. But yeah, I was interested because I have not really read any Peach Momoko stuff. From what I understand, she is a relatively new kind of addition to the comic space. I don't think she's really been doing comics for that long, at least at Marvel. But she has had covers everywhere. Like, her cover art has just been everywhere across Marvel. So, and she's done she's written a few stories for them. She's drawn a few interior stuff for them. But this is the first kind of, I had read like one short story in an Extreme Venomverse issue that she did that was completely dialogueless. It was just all art. And that was the only Peach Momoko stuff I'd read. So I was very interested to come into this and see kind of what she did with this, because I do believe that when you have a comic where the writer and the artist are the same people, you get some really, really special stuff, I think, because they have a grasp of both sides of the medium, right? They have a really good, you'd hope they have a really good grasp on both sides of the medium, with, them being able to write. So the text side of it and also the visual side of it. I think a lot of times, like, this is an issue I've had with like Wonder Woman, for example, where I feel like the dialogue and the narration can sometimes get in the way of itself. I think I see that problem much less when it is an artist who is also writing their own work, right? I think that transfer usually works really well. I think just they have a better, handle on pacing stuff out that way. So that being said, this is I want to say right at the bat, I do like this. I think this is pretty good. Yeah. But I have seen, I think, some complaints being like, this is not an X-Men book. This is an Armor solo story. So I do think, like, the people who are like, this is not really an X-Men book, like, where are the other mutants? To a degree, I kind of understand that gut reaction. But, like, also clearly, it's not just gonna be Armor. Like, they're gonna add other characters into the series, presumably. Yeah. So I think that's it's gonna come around on that. So I don't know. I do just think, like, this is the most unique book in the Ultimate Universe. I think, again, like, when you compare this against Big 2 art, I think it is really interesting. Her style doesn't always work for me. There are panels, I think particularly some of the more mundane panels where there's not a whole lot going on. That stuff, the style doesn't necessarily gel with me. However, when the horror elements creep in, I really, really like her art. And I think that's always been the case. When she's done, like, horror covers for other stuff, I've always been like, damn, this is super cool. And so, like, I think she is a great artist. It's just not always for me. But so I think, as mentioned, I think that she is really good at telling the story visually. I think there's a really good pacing between the dialogue and the visuals in this issue that I think is often a hard time, as I mentioned. I think it's a hard line to walk. But yeah, I think this does a really good job of telling the story visually instead of just having a ton of exposition. Because there's not a whole lot of dialogue here, but what is there is effective, and I think it's all necessary, and it doesn't bog down the story at all. Also, I'm a big fan of the suit design for the armor suit. I don't know if it's a samurai in 616, but it is here and it looks dope. So That's cool. Having recently been watching Shogun, I'm like, hell yeah, I'm on a samurai kick right now. So as for the story itself, I think it's interesting enough. I do think the horror parts of it were my favorite parts of it, with the weird dude with no face sometimes, except sometimes he does have eyes. It's just the black blob, which League of Comic Geeks lists that character as the Shadow King. That's not named, but cool if that's the case. So yeah, just generally pretty solid. I don't know. It gets kind of dark in places, like when they talk about like when because there's essentially I don't remember all the details, but it's like Armor had a friend who killed himself, and then this is like set. I don't know quite. I don't know if it was clear on how long after that, but some time had passed, it seemed. And the shadow dude is talking about how like it's Armor's fault and everything, and there's like a curse which is going to come for all the people that Armor knows. And like right after hearing that, she gets a phone call essentially being like, your gym teacher just hung himself. So that was pretty dark. And it's interesting because a lot of the time, like when the art is not doing the horror stuff, it is kind of this like cutesy kind of cartoony vibe to it. So I think that just the juxtaposition of that style with this really fucking dark story and plot, and sometimes that is reflected in the art, but I think it's just a really interesting combo. So I don't think it's as good as Ultimate Spider-Man, but I think it is very interesting, and so far I am liking it more than Ultimate Black Panther. Granted, it's only been one issue of each, but I think this is a more interesting start, and it's definitely something that I think is very unique and that I definitely will be keeping an eye on going forward. This is one of those ones that I felt like it was either, I think for me I felt this way, but I think this was also something that I felt would be the case just across the board, where because this is so unique, I think you're going to get a lot of people either really loving this or really hating it. I don't know if there's going to be much in between because it is so kind of different and unique. So, but I ended up quite enjoying it. I think it's a really solid start.
I mean, you're a bit biased. You love everything like really horror in these comic books.
That is true. That is something that I like a lot. Yeah.
No, but I genuinely enjoyed this one. It was like you said, very unique, very different from the other two Ultimate books that we've had. And I thought this one was going to be a bit more like Ultimate Spider-Man, where it was like very heavily like Maker influenced, like Maker intruded in her life some way or another, because X-Men, I was like, okay, hero, something going along those lines. But no, it's very different from that. It's just the fact that like I don't know if it's the fact that like she's just like afraid of her powers, like, or if it just came in or something like that, or if she's always had it, just like never realized some stuff like that.
It did look like this was the first time they manifested, like in the car sequence, which was great, by the way.
Yes, yeah, and but yeah, so I thought most of these Ultimate ones were gonna kind of flow along those lines. Black Panther obviously wasn't like that. It was a bit different in that regard too.
Black Panther is the one that, just based on that first issue, felt the most like 616. Like I feel like you kind of plop that over there and not a whole lot would change.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was. I was actually quite surprised by the horror aspect. I wasn't expecting that in this at all. But I quite when I first like saw it, I was like, damn, this looks really, really good, and I really enjoyed it. Story wise, I don't know what to think of much yet. I mean, Armor, I've known of Armor. I haven't read anything with her.
Yeah, the stuff I've read with her she's been kind of a peripheral character, so I don't know that much about her either. Yeah.
But like I knew she existed. I knew she was a character. From I remember from her armor, it definitely didn't look like this like samurai thing. I thought it was like
I remember it being more kind of bulky and kind of more of an Iron Man vibe than samurai.
That's what I kind of remember it as too. But I mean, I'm fine with samurai. I don't really care. What else? I think I would say this was my pick of the week.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I think this is the best thing I read this week. It was very unique, very different. At first, when I saw on Twitter how the art style looked, I thought I wasn't gonna like it, to be honest. But I actually quite liked it. It was very unique. It was unique enough where it's like good. Like sometimes the uniqueness can be like I don't like it. Like it doesn't look good. But I thought
Yeah, I think when it's so unique, you run the risk of it not fitting the tone of the story because it's kind of a very specific style. Yeah.
Yes. But this one, I think it worked really well with the way everything like went about, and I thought it was very good. And yeah, I gave it an 8.
I gave it an 8 as well. And yeah, I'm looking at the 616 armor suit right now, and it is definitely not samurai based. At least, yeah, not from what I can see. So maybe there's some inspiration there that I just am not aware of, but it definitely looks more Iron Man-y than kind of traditional samurai.
I will talk about Thanos number 4 real quick.
Oh, good. I saw your rating on this. I'm very excited to hear what you have to say.
Yes. I mean, man, all right. So Thanos number 4, final one of this series. Writer Christopher Cantwell, artist Germain Peralta.
Yeah, and I think also Luca Pizzari.
Luca
Pizzari is credited, but I don't know what roles they did. Yeah,
I'm not entirely sure. But man, honestly, what a waste of a series. I'm gonna be honest here. I think the first comment on this your website explains it perfectly. The only good thing that came out of this was the Thanos pickup truck.
And that was arguably not even a good thing.
It was the best thing, and that's why number 2 was the best issue of this series. No, but in reality, this issue really it's really nothing special. It's basically a big fist fight of Death and Thanos. And while the Illuminati tries to interfere, but they literally do nothing. And when I say do nothing, they literally do nothing. Like, if I remember correctly, Blue Marvel, when they realized that, like, right, because first Reed is like, we can't let Death kill Thanos because the last time he died, he unleashed this, like, thing that almost wiped out existence. I think it was, like, some sort of, like, celestial thing that, like, almost wiped out existence. And so they're like, we can't let that happen again. And so Blue Marvel shoots a beam, and he's like, hey, listen to us, he can't die. And so Death just like flips on him and like saps out his soul or something. And then next after him, I believe is, oh god, I don't remember who was after him, but it was like, I think it was Reed, and he like pushes Thanos out of the way, and so Thanos just backslaps his face, and he's out of commission just because of that. Then it's Hulk, and I think Death just like goes up to him. He's like, "Oh, you've eluded me for far too long," and just like looks into his soul as well. And then Iron Man and Emma Frost are both kind of the same. It's just Death doing her thing, and then it's like right as she's about to kill Thanos, I guess he flips it on her somehow, traps her in like this void in the space that he like created a while ago when he had died, I believe. And it turns out it's just like a rock, and it looks kind of like just like, if anything, like a new Infinity Stone in a sense. But yeah, now she's trapped in there, and he's like, now I've got to figure out a way to like control her and release her. And then at the very end of the comic, it's like Thanos will return in summer of 2024. So all this issue did was just set up his next return for the big event that's happening. And even Reed and Iron Man were in it, and they're like, "Oh, he's gonna come back." Like Iron Man like mentioned Avengers, like how like there's gonna be like this huge like event. Like, oh no. It was Reed. How their deal with Death was that if they let her, live in the human world as a human, she'd tell them how the like universe would end. Right? They're assuming that it's gonna be Thanos related, and so that's when it says Thanos will return in summer of 2024. And
So is this just going to be going on while Blood Hunt is also going on? Because I think Blood Hunt is running through July.
I'm not sure. It just said he will return in summer of 2024.
I guess like August is also still summer, so it could be post. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was like kind of just like a huge waste of time. Like, I don't know if we really needed it.
I had been trying to drop out of the series for 3 fucking issues. So
I mean, I don't like, it was like fine for a second. Like, if this didn't like be like, oh, he'll return in summer of 2024, I would have rated it higher. I've been like, okay, he trapped Death. That has some implications later on. Not he's gonna come back with Death in this like heart. Like, it's like, why? They could have just like explained this in when he comes back. Realistically, they could have done this in one issue. I feel like, I'm not gonna lie, they could have done this in one issue, maybe 2. But yeah, they did it in 4, and Yeah, it's just not nonsense. I gave it 4 stars.
Yeah. Yeah, I was glad to not have to read this one. Okay, well, I'm gonna talk about Void Rivals.
All right.
So prepare yourself for some spoilers here.
Yeah, I'm ready for it.
Okay, so as anybody who has been listening to the show for a little while will know, I have not been the hugest fan of Void Rivals of late. It's back after I think a 3.5 or 4 month break. I think the last issue was in November. So it's been a while. And the last 2 issues that came out, I was just kind of ragging on them the entire time. To the point where I thought they were so not very good that I just no longer consider myself as someone who even liked this series at all. I had liked parts of the earlier run, particularly I liked issue number 4. I know we both liked issue 4 a lot. But yeah, I was not a fan of 5 or 6 at all. And, that's something that, as a result, this series did not even make my honorable mentions on my top 10 of 2023 list, let alone an actual spot. So going into this one, I had kind of a couple, I was kind of mixed. I had mixed feelings about this because on the one hand, I was pretty skeptical because I have not been enjoying the series for the past couple issues. But at the same time, I was kind of a little bit less low on it now because, as mentioned, there has been a fairly decent break. And so as a result, I kind of felt refreshed on the series a little bit. And also, the cover is very cool. So I was kind of interested to see how this issue going to continue the story from where it picked up. And so there was not a whole lot of actual story progression in this issue. Regardless of that, though, I liked this one quite a lot. And I think it's probably my favorite issue of the series, and it is my pick of the week. Yeah, so, genuinely, I the entire time I was reading this, I was like, fucking hell, where was this level of quality in the last 2 issues? So, first of all, it's written by Robert Kirkman, and the artist is Lorenzo De Felici, same creative team. The art is fantastic as usual. It's really good. The problem I had with the series during its previous arc was, and this was something that it took me kind of a while to figure out, but once I realized that it really came into focus, and that was wet mop of a character, Darek.
Yes.
I have always liked the world, I've liked the concepts, and I've liked Salilla, but I never liked Darek. I found him somehow both very annoying and also very boring at the same time. The way I kind of was equivocating it in this issue, what I was thinking about is, I feel like Darek is if Invincible had none of the fun parts of his character, but still all of the annoying parts. So I do think these problems have not been solved with Darek. I still do not really like him that much. However, those problems are not really as noticeable here because Darek, and really Salilla for that matter, I don't think neither of them are really, they don't have much of a presence in this issue. And that is that's not to say they're not in the issue a lot, because they kind of are. I think they're in about half the issue, but the parts of the issue they are in do not feel very substantial. And they're pretty quick reads where not a whole lot happens. They kind of have a little bit of banter, but it's not very substantial banter. And so as a result, it's not as insufferable watching Darek just kind of be around and be annoying. And I think Darek's annoying nature is lessened when Salilla is there because she's just more interesting. So she kind of elevates that a little bit. Because I think issue 5 and 6, you had a lot of them kind of being separate, and that really did not work for me. So Darek in this issue is okay. I think he's not too bad. And the rest of the issue is actively really fucking cool. This issue introduced a new character named Proximus, who seems to be kind of a bounty hunter, who I think is best described as the Darth Vader of the Energon universe. Because he's got a big suit. He lives in a Bacta tank, it seems, when he's not in the suit. And he has to get lifted into it, and it clicks around him. I'm not entirely sure on how that works, though, because we see 2 people who I think are both Proximus, and one of them is just just a standard inhabitant of this world, and the other is in this tank, and I think they're the same person, but they look wildly different, so I didn't know if maybe one of them was a Mindscape thing or something. But so the character introduction was super cool. He had really good interplay with Zalalak, who is the leader of the Zertonians. God, I'm trying to jump back into knowing all the people in this series after 4 months away. I'm just now realizing it's pretty fucking hard. But so yeah, his interaction with Zalalak is really cool, where essentially they're kind of antagonistic towards each other, but Zalalak is well, I know you don't want what's coming any more than I do if these guys get to Agoria. So you're gonna help me out here. Otherwise, your world as you know it may not exist for much longer. So Proximus is like, okay, fine. So and it kind of ends with him going, and it looks like they're gonna he's gonna end up fighting Dark and Solilla in I think the next issue, but maybe not quite that soon. So anyway, really cool. I would have liked to see, despite the fact that I'm not a huge fan of Dark, I would have liked to see maybe some more struggles with them crossing the exclusion zone, if that's even what it's called. I don't remember. Because they don't show a lot of that. They have kind of a little bit of a flashback at the start where you can see some of the dangers of it, with some fantastic art in that sequence, by the way. Really cool stuff. But yeah, as a whole, Proximus, really cool character introduction, really like that. And Dark was a little bit less insufferable here because his presence was not as heavily felt. So I did like it a lot. It was my pick of the week. I think it's a very good, solid starting point back into the series. I don't know if this issue just was better because they had more time to work on it to the break. But regardless, I think it was really good. And I gave it an 8.
All right. Well, let's go into the special issue this week, Blue Beetle.
Okay, yeah. Okay. I really like this issue's gonna be tricky to talk about, I think. It's a lot. There's a lot going on here. One second.
It's a reason I didn't rate it, because I didn't know really what to give it, and I wanted to talk about it first before I really set my mind on it.
Yeah. Okay. So this is written by Josh Trujillo. There's a shit ton of artists on this. I'm just gonna go through them real quick. We have Adrian Gutierrez is the series main. We also have Scott Collins, Cully Hamner, Howard Porter, and Natasha Bustos. I think that's all of the pencilers. There's also a bunch of colorists: Laura Martin, Will Quintana, Hi-Fi, which I'm assuming is a company that just kind of sends out colorists, and then Luis Guerrero. Okay, so this issue, as mentioned, is a lot. Essentially, it picks up pretty quickly after the last issue, with Booster Gold showing up and being like, "Hey, Ted is missing. We need to go to 3 different points in the time stream and activate this device to make it like a time anchor point, which for some reason will pull Ted back together."
Yeah.
And the anchor points don't seem to be connected in any way. In fact, they don't seem to really matter where they are, because there's a couple of points where they're like, well, we can put an anchor point here, but this is a better spot to do it. So let's just jump out of this section real quick and do it somewhere else. I'm like, okay. So, I mean, he goes to meet like Maxwell Lord is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big fight where Lobo's involved. I think, and just a shit ton of people. I know Lobo shows up like legitimately later, but
yeah, I think it was I don't remember exactly what they were called. It was like Justice Society, I think I wanted to say it was.
Maybe, yeah.
He said it was like in the future. I know that, and because it was 3 points in time. They went to one in the past.
Well, 4.
Four?
Yeah, you're forgetting Johnny DC.
Well, okay.
We'll get to Johnny DC later, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I was.
That's a whole other thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna consider that a point in time necessarily, because I feel like that it kind of seems like out of time in a sense.
I guess that's kind of fair. Yeah.
But yeah, like they went to the past, and that's where they met. Like he met, Maxwell Lord, and then they went to the future, which is where he met the Justice Society, I think. If I remember, that's what they're called.
Yeah,
I don't
some group of people. They're in like a big war or something.
Yeah, and then they went to past but present, more likely. It's like present, but
it seems like it's maybe like a year or 2 in the past or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna just call it the present. Because it's where Jaime it technically exists.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he like talks to his mother there.
Yeah.
And then after that present whole thing, that's where we get Lobo as Jaime and Booster Gold are going through like the time stream. Lobo jumps in and like kidnaps Jaime so that he can meet Johnny DC. Is that what
Johnny
it was?
DC.
Johnny DC. Yeah.
Which, God, that sequence is strange. And I'm not just talking because of how meta it is, but I think Jaime's reactions are kind of odd there too. Because if I heard the shit that Johnny DC was saying, I'd be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Exactly. It felt like he knew he was in a comic,
Yeah. Because Johnny DC's like, "You gotta stop having so many retcons. Your origin's too confusing. Is it magic or is it science?" And then Jaime's like, "It's both. Ted was science, Dan was magic." And Johnny's like, "That's not good enough. It's too confusing. Just stop having retcons." And then Jaime's just gone, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then Johnny DC is like now for Huntress as well, which I don't know if that's going to come back into play or if that's just an inside joke about how complicated Huntress's origin is. I don't know much about Huntress, so it could be either. Johnny DC was looking pretty menacing though when we're saying that. So it is something that I do want to mention here, which is this is something that I've also mentioned in previous times when we talked about this issue coming up. But this is supposedly a tribute issue to Keith Giffen, who was the kind of primary creator on Jaime's Blue Beetle. I think I'm not very familiar with Keith Giffen's work because to me this didn't really feel like this didn't feel to me like a tribute issue.
Yeah.
It just kind of felt like a random issue to me. So I'm sure it was. I'm sure like this, and for people who aren't really familiar with Keith Giffen's work, this might have been amazing. But for me, I was just like, this feels very kind of strange and out of place. And I think I would feel that dissonance less if Jaime had not literally just killed somebody for the first time in the previous issue. Because they do make mention of it.
Yes.
And he has kind of a heart-to-heart with Ted once Ted is reconstructed at the end about
it. And that's what like he was like kind of insinuating with his mom as well when he was able to escape with his mom as well, you know.
But I just felt like it was hard to balance those two things. And I get you want to have the Keith Giffen tribute issue in here, absolutely. I think in that case, and that's tough because if you ignore it completely, that would feel really weird.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, this sort of half acknowledging it and half just ignoring it and doing its own a separate thing was also kind of jarring for me, and I don't know if it was more or less jarring. So regardless, though, I'm sure as a Keith Giffen fan, this was great and a really good tribute to him because people seem to really be liking it from that angle. Like all the comments I've seen have been like how this is a really great tribute to him, and that's great, genuinely. But me not being as familiar with his work, I just am confused. I was kind of confused for a lot of this. Not even in terms of complexity, but just like there's a lot of shit going on here that I'm not really familiar with.
Yeah.
So great cover though. I think this is maybe the best cover of the series so far. Really did that cover. There is some setup stuff at the end where Ted is like, there's some big shit coming your way. Worse than the Blood Scarab. You'll find out eventually. I can't tell you anymore, but there's some big shit coming your way, so get ready. And then the very end is the Green Beetle.
Yes.
As we found about, there's too many fucking Beetles. I know there's not that many, but I'm still confused by them. And so she's like, I don't want to be a Blue Beetle anymore. I don't want to be a Scarab anymore. And so turns out the reveal is she's at Victoria Cord's place asking her to get rid of the Scarab for her after seeing Jaime, or more specifically Kaji, kill Blood Scarab last issue.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think me summarizing the issue kind of is just as good of my thoughts on it as I can muster, because I certainly don't think this was bad, by the way. I didn't dislike this, and I did find myself kind of enjoying it while I was reading it, but it was one of those situations where it's like, this could have been realistically, like, fluctuating between 4 different score points. So, because I just wasn't sure. So, yeah, I definitely didn't dislike it. I think it was a solid enough issue on its own, and I'm sure, again, as a Giffen tribute, I'm sure it's great. But, I was just it did just feel kind of, tonally just kind of like, whoa, this is some whiplash, and I don't really know what's going on here.
Yeah, it's, see, like, that's where my difficulty is coming from, right? Because, like, I know this was, like, a tribute to,
Keith Giffen.
Yeah, Keith Giffen. Like I knew it was a tribute to that, but it's like you said, like I'm not too familiar with that, and like I thought, to be honest, I thought this was gonna be like just like a random filler thing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize it was gonna like relate back to the actual story that we are currently on. I thought it was gonna be like, okay, quick filler tribute thing, and then we'll go on to the next arc. Yeah. And so like that's where it kind of like threw me off. I was like, like I don't really see where the tribute is, but like again, like you said, like you're not familiar with it. I'm definitely not familiar with it. But people seem to have been enjoying it, so I was like, okay, maybe it is in there. Just maybe like the different art styles, like a call back to like some of his earlier works or something like that, and But and like if I were to have to rate this on those like purely story, like just continuing it based off of just like what we've been reading so far based off Blue Beetle, I mean, I didn't really like it that much. I thought like most of it didn't really make sense. Like you said, like they kind of seemed like it didn't matter where they went. The Kaji would be like, "Hey man, don't forget to do this," and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, all right, let's get out of here." And then there was that whole person like kind of like tracking throughout the entire thing that wasn't Lobo, mind you. Lobo showed up like kind of randomly, There was
It
this
was
other
Ambush
guy.
Bug.
Yeah, all right, yeah, ambush bug.
That's who he's listed as, I think. So yeah.
Yeah, ambush bug. He was following Jaime the entire time, and he just like never really showed up. It was just,
Yeah.
I guess maybe it was tracking him for Lobo. I assume.
Well, that could also be some of that, like, there's some shit coming at you, Jaime stuff that Ted was talking about for future.
Yeah, that could be true. Just maybe that's just set up for the future as
Yeah.
well. But yeah, it was just I felt like it was in a lot of places at once.
Yeah.
Which
You could say it was everything everywhere all at once.
it's man, oh man, your bad puns.
That's
Coming
not
off.
even a pun.
I'm gonna call it a pun. It throws me off every time.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
But yeah, it's like I didn't mind the whole retconning thing with Johnny DC and whatever. And now that I'm looking up the cover, you can kind of on the DC logo, you can kind of see arms and legs actually.
Oh, okay, on one of them, but there's 3 DC logos on this book, so
my
yeah.
bad. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I see the one you're talking about though. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's too many logos for one book.
I mean, I only see okay, 1, 2, and then Dawn of DC.
Yeah, top and then Dawn of DC. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I don't. Man. All right. I'm gonna rate this honestly as like a 6.
I'm putting it at a 7, just as kind of like it's kind of like a whatever. I'll just give it a 7.
Yeah.
This is one of those ones. Yeah.
I'm just gonna give it a 6. It felt more fillery than, again. I would have been fine if this was a filler one, specifically if it was just like, for Keith Giffen.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that it continued the story where I felt like it didn't really continue the story for most of this.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm wrong, and it's actually setting up this huge thing with that ambush bug or whatever. But yeah, I don't know about it.
I think that is tricky because if you just ignore all the other stuff and just do the tribute issue, it would feel very strange. Like right after the Blood Scarab thing, for Jaime to just not mention it at all, for there to be nothing related to that, and just to keep going. That would also feel weird, but I think it would also, it is kind of this like have it happening also does feel strange. I think it's just a hard situation to write that in the middle of this arc regardless.
Well, again, like I said, I didn't think it was going to be like continuing straight off of number 6. I thought it was going to be like number 6 was going to go straight into number 8, and number 7 was just going to be like this random adventure that they just had, like something that had happened that we never really saw. Right. I thought that's what it was kind of going to be, but no, it wasn't at all.
Okay, I'm going to talk about The Last Mermaid.
All right.
This is issue number 1. The everything is Derek Kirk Kim. So I really don't have much to say on this one because it is a very quick read and the premise is quite simple, but I think it is very effective. It's essentially about this mermaid who is in this like post-apocalyptic world where there's like no water, and she's in this big like mech suit that has a fishbowl of water on it. It's kind of like a Mysterio thing, but with water in it. Yeah. And so it's essentially this first issue is just her going around trying to find new water because the water in her suit is going toxic. And if it reaches 100% toxicity, then it will no longer be able to sustain her life or the life of her little pet dude, who is named Lottie, I think. So yeah, it's just them trying to find some water. It is very much the focus here is the art, because again, much of the Ultimate X-Men, when you have a writer artist who is the same person, I think it seems like it's just easier to pace things out between the dialogue and the art because they're people who know both sides of that medium. So yeah, it's a pretty quick read. There's a lot of focus on the art, and that's kind of the extent of it. It helps that the art is great, and I think while the story is not super complex or present even really, it's effective. I think ultimately, immediately, I think you do feel the kind of bond and companionship between the mermaid and her little pet, because they're like the only 2 living creatures out here essentially. I think that immediately does a lot of heavy lifting. Also, the pet is very cute, so that also helps. But it immediately does a lot of heavy lifting to make you care about these characters because they essentially only really have each other. There is somebody else in the world. We did see to the point where this whole issue kind of takes place around the Golden Gate Bridge. So when they pass under the bridge, it zooms in and you see someone on the bridge watching them, and that's kind of the only sense of any kind of exterior characters in this. It is a pretty menacing shot. We don't know though for sure who that is or what their motivations may be, or whether they're a friend or a foe. So yeah, and that's just the sort of them trying to find water, which they don't do, by the way. There's even a point where they fall down and the suit gets like cracked and all the water starts spilling out, and so they're both like they eventually just get out of the suit and they're like dying on the ground. And then the last shot is they see like a little twig of grass, a little seed. So like, oh, there's life. That's what the issue had. So it was really solid. I think this was a very solid start. I had it initially at an 8. I think I'm going to give it a 7. Not because I think it was, bad at all. I think it was very solid first issue. But I do just think it's like, while it was very effective, I think, in what it did, I do still need a little bit more to be really hooked in the series from the plot standpoint. But as a first kind of introduction to this world, I think it was really effective. I think the characters are immediately, quite likable, even though they don't say very much. So yeah, I liked it quite a bit. I gave it a 7. I think it was a very solid first issue.
All right, nice, interesting. I'm surprised. You never talked anything about this. I don't even.
No, so what? I watch another comic review show, and essentially, if it's Beetle is one that I am not planning to pull, and it's a number 1, then I will go and check it out just because, and especially if it's an indie series, because I want to have more indie series.
Yeah.
I'm starting to really kind of get fatigued with Marvel and DC a lot of the time.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah, just a lot of that stuff is stuff that we kind of have to read, not necessarily that we want to read. I generally like the indie stuff more because if I'm not reading it, I'll just if I'm not liking it, I'll just drop it. Like I'm not worried I'm gonna miss some big continuity thing for the most part.
Exactly. Yeah.
The stuff I'm reading for indie stuff is stuff that I actually like and want to read.
Oh, that's fair enough. All right, yeah, I will talk about Shazam number 9. I'm gonna be honest. All right. Yeah. Okay. So story writer Mark Waid. Our artist is Emanuela Lupacchino. And yeah. So I mean, if this isn't the definition of a filler issue, I don't know what is, to be honest. It's basically just Billy goes on to. It's not a podcast. No, yeah. I'm gonna say it was like a news show, whatever. But yeah, he went. Do you know a Jack Ryder? I don't know if you recognize him or something else. Is this like the first time?
Jack Ryder, Ryder, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
That name sounds vaguely familiar, but no, I don't know.
It does for me too. That's why I was like wondering if you recognized it from somewhere. But yeah, so he basically goes on his show. Because Billy has that whole news thing like covering the captain and whatever, and while he was under control of the gods, he switched over to Metamorpho, I think, if I remember correctly. And this issue introduces the Creeper, at least in this series that we've read. Introduces the Creeper, who is like a hero, but he comes off as a villain because of the way he like acts and talks and stuff like that. But he like literally just wants to help people. And it turns out that Jack Ryder knew Billy Batson was the captain. And during the news thing, he was like trying to like not insinuating towards that, but he was like asking Billy questions that like kind of threw Billy for a whirl, where he like constantly had to like redirect. And as Jack Ryder was giving Billy a ride back to like his house, I guess, he tricked Billy into basically saying Shazam, and Billy obviously transformed into the captain. And so in this scene, Jack Ryder revealed that he's the Creeper, and he basically asked the captain for help in a problem, which is like which was the Shadow Thief. And basically it was that he had taken over a train with a bunch of important people, and he just needed his help, just capturing the Shadow Thief. That's really all the issue was. They captured him by basically Billy creating light by saying Shazam, and the flash of light from him getting struck by lightning would, pull the Shadow Thief out of the shadows, and then the Creeper caught him. And yeah, that's basically it. Not much else happens in this besides that, actually. I thought it was gonna be more. I thought this was gonna be a new arc. I know it was changing writers and stuff like that, but I thought they'd start something new again. But it's not that. It's just it's kind of like a fun little story here and there. I liked the Creeper character. He was actually not funny per se, but he was like interesting because like the way they introduced him kind of made him seem like a villain, but then you kind of like realize like, oh, he's just actually trying to help people. He just comes off as like genuinely super creepy. Like I remember there was one scene where he helps the driver of the train, like he basically saves the driver of the train. And then he says as he's like they're landing, he's like, "Look, Shazam! Look, Captain! Look who I caught! It's our dinner." And the dude just starts freaking out, and the captain's like, "Hey, calm down. Like he's just like that, but he actually just like saved your life." Like he's just like genuinely just like super creepy and just weird. But he's like,
yeah, on the cover he just looks like the Joker if the Joker was just entirely green.
yeah, exactly. And it was interesting for me, right? Because it says the captain versus the creeper in the synopsis, and they never fought.
Well, your rule, Sebastian.
They never fought, and I kind of struggled for a little bit, right? But I rated it fine.
Yeah, I saw that.
Because Jack fought with Billy.
I think you're making loopholes here, Sebastian, that are starting you on a bit of a slippery slope.
I'm not gonna lie, that was all a lie. I didn't read the synopsis beforehand, and I just read it now as I was reviewing. My review was a lie. I enjoyed the creeper. Story-wise, it was all right. I didn't like. It was fine. At the end of this, I don't know if that's gonna something that's gonna continue, but at the end of this, Metamorpho attacks Jack Ryder because Jack Ryder in that new show with Billy was basically saying like Metamorpho was like nothing, basically. Like he like looked weird, I think is what it was. And at the end of it, you see Metamorpho like in a liquid form, like encapsulate Jack Ryder. So I don't know if that's gonna continue or anything like that, but yeah, that happened, I guess, towards the end. But yeah, the fact that the captain and the creeper never fought, even though it says it twice in this, it starts with the captain versus the creeper, and it ends with it's the fight of the century, the captain versus the creeper, and they never actually fought. They're actually like helping each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what did I say? I give it a 0 or a 1? I don't remember exactly.
I don't know. I think at first it was just you would knock off a couple stars for it, but now I think last time you were like I would go 0, but then you didn't for some reason because it was an Incredible Hulk issue. And
it was the Incredible Hulk, and it was the fact that they never actually met.
Right, and that could have been like this is what's happening in this arc and not necessarily this issue, I think is what you also.
Yeah, because like in the Man-Thing one, they actually met and they never actually fought. This one they never actually met, so I was like, okay, I'm not gonna count it. But this one they literally were like together the entire issue basically. And
so is a 1 star then? I don't think you can give this 0 stars. I don't think it's possible on this site.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave it as 1 star, so that way later on it actually shows up in my like red list.
Yeah.
But yeah, 1 star for me.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So I just went through Jack Ryder's comic appearances. He's apparently in Crisis on Infinite Earths, so I would have read him there. But he's in a bunch of other stuff too. But it's a lot of like single appearance here, single appearance there, except for a series called Danger Street, which came out fairly recently, written by Tom King, which I have not read, but is apparently quite good. So that's, I think, probably his most prominent appearances there. But Crisis is the only thing I would have read him in.
Gotcha.
Okay. Shit, I forgot about Sentry. Okay, let's do Sentry then. Let's do Sentry then.
All right.
Okay, this is written by Jason Liu. The artist is Luigi Zagaria. Okay, I don't think this is terrible. I think this is probably my favorite issue of the series. However, I still don't think it's great. That being said, I will retract a little bit of my criticisms from the previous issues because the big fight between Ryan and Mallory is in this issue. Mallory gets a little bit of help from Jessica Jones as well, but she gets kind of out of commission. And I think like my complaint a lot of the series was, why are you introducing so many sentries and then just killing all of them? And not only that, Ryan is absorbing their power. So how in the fuck is one lone remaining sentry going to be able to beat him on her own when he has the power of like 5 sentries? Now, while I think from a pacing standpoint and just a level of interest standpoint, I still think it was a mistake to kill all the other sentries. I think, at least on panel, you don't need to show all of them because that got so fucking repetitive. So I still think from a pacing standpoint, that was not a good decision. But I do think the way they handled the fight was pretty solid. Because it's essentially starts out Mallory and Jessica are pretty much completely outmatched. I do like that Mallory still got some decent hits in, but it's paced out at a rate where I'm like, okay, this makes sense. Like I wasn't sitting there like it didn't feel inconsistent with the rest of the series. It felt like very much still in line with what the series had established. So Sebastian was kind of right last issue when he said that you thought that it would be the other Sentries would somehow come back into play somehow.
Yeah.
And kind of made it so that it was a team up against him ultimately. And that did happen. I don't really understand how. Mallory just kind of goes into Ryan's mind where they're all still there for some reason. And then they just all become like kind of ghostly looking versions of themselves in the real world.
That was my biggest gripe with this issue. Not with the fact that like they're still in his mind. I think that has something to do with like the Sentry powers or something like that. Like he while killing them like absorbed their like consciousness or whatever. I don't know exactly. Like while absorbing their powers, he absorbed their souls or some shit like that. But the way they came out into like the physical and were actually able to help Mallory, I hated that explanation. It was just like,
and they all have costumes for some reason as well.
Yeah, they literally all it was just magic. That was their explanation. Magic.
Yeah.
Like there was no deeper meaning. It was just magic. Yep, they're here now, and it's just like.
That being said, I think that the suits all look pretty.
No, the suits look great, but yeah.
Yeah, so I think the fight is not bad. I actually my main thing with it was I just thought the ending was kind of boring. Yeah. After everything's all wrapped up, and Mallory's just like, okay, I'll go work for you, Misty, and that was kind of it. And she's like, I'm not the Sentry, I'm Solaris, I think is what.
Yes, she was like, I want to do my own thing, so I'm not Sentry. You can call me Solaris. Yeah.
So I'd be fine with seeing her pop up in more stuff going forward. I don't want to see another Sentry miniseries though. I think this is really one. I know you mentioned that Thanos should have been really shortened down. I think you could probably take out like the entirety of issues 2 and 3 of this series.
3 was good.
Okay. But I just think like from a story perspective, what is in 3 that would be needed for this?
I don't remember much from 3, but I remember it was good.
I mean, even let's say you could at least cut out one full issue.
Oh, 100%.
I think I think that if they had cut out most of the Ryan goes around killing other Sentries stuff and just do one.
Yeah.
Do one of those, show a little bit of Mallory kind of gaining her powers a little bit and going to rescue some people. Maybe make that the entirety of issue 2 and then do this as issue 3. The series is it would at least feel less dead and empty than just seeing Ryan do the same thing like 5 times in a row. So also, I would have liked if the Avengers had played some part in this, because that must be kind of strange for them. Because he just showed up, was like, "Hey, I'm here to be the new Sentry. I'll see you around," and then he's just gone again. I think that plot thread would have been interesting to follow up on a little bit. But like, this was fine. I think this is the best issue of the series. Again, like, I'd be fine with seeing Mallory show up somewhere else. But yeah, as a whole, the series is just like, God, I don't know why it existed. It really did not feel super necessary, especially since I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of Mallory going forward. So I don't know why it was necessary to do this full 4-issue miniseries to introduce her.
Yeah, I enjoyed it for what it was, I guess. I definitely didn't think it was the worst issue of this series.
That is still issue number 1, yeah.
Yeah. I had my problems with this one. Mainly just like I hated the fact that the way the other Sentries came into play was just magic. Like, literally, that's the only word they threw around was just, it's magic. That's it. It's Sentry magic. My other question for you specifically, since you know more, has Jessica Jones always been able to fly?
I think so, yeah.
Really?
The show, I think, kind of hand-waved that away because it was a more grounded universe.
Gotcha.
At that time, at least. But I think that was kind of her whole thing, was she was able to fly for a while and then just kind of didn't. She just kind of ended up going away from the superhero lifestyle, so I don't really see that happen really ever.
Okay, yeah, because that threw me for a whirl. I was like, since when has she been able to fly? Yeah, that was pretty much it. It was just that whole magic big, like, just unnecessarily bothered me. It's just Sentry magic. Like, she pulled them out. Like, they connected, mind wave to mind wave. Like, the other Sentries helped connect Mallory and Ryan. Mallory essentially pulled the others out, and they all helped to defeat Ryan, who I don't even remember how they defeated him. Do you remember? I'm sure I'm drawing
I think
a
they
blank.
just kind of kept laser beaming him until he was down.
Yeah, I'm like drawing a blank. I didn't mind the whole like with her being like always being like afraid of her powers and afraid of what like they can do. So her giving up that easily like felt very in her character. And I think the whole bit with like towards the end where you saw like she was wearing like the power reduction bracelets or whatever, like that's gonna be essentially like her like super suit in a sense.
Right, because I forgot she was kind of in a wheelchair and
Yes,
kind of
towards
Professor
the
X
end.
style. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like so she wears the power bracelets, when she's not in superhero mode, and then she takes them off when she goes into superhero mode.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like so she doesn't run the risk of just randomly laser beaming someone because of her cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
I thought it was all right. I'm assuming they're setting something. Maybe this is set up for like the next big event. For them bringing back Sentry.
Well, the next big event is Blood Hunt, and I seriously doubt she'll be back for
not
that.
Blood Hunt, but like I was specifically thinking of the one like the Thanos one, like the big like universe ending event thing that they are planning. I guess I don't know specifically, but yeah, I don't know. Like you said, I don't know where they're planning on bringing her character back in general. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I gave it a 6.
I also give it a 6.
Let's go Cap. We'll go Cap.
Okay. This is Captain America number 7, written by J. Michael Straczynski. The artist is Carlos Magno. Okay, I'm gonna have to open. I have so many fucking notes on this issue. I have a ludicrous amount of notes. I normally when I write notes for issues, I write about maybe half a page. This one, I wrote a full like page and a half of notes on this issue. Yeah, okay. There's a reason for that though, because this issue is fucking weird, man.
It is weird. It is weird.
Yeah, this got more, I think, this got kind of more back to that place in the first arc where we thought it was kind of strange and interesting and weird. However, I think those points in the first arc where we thought that, I think by the end, those turned out to be feeling kind of mundane. And just the only reason it seemed weird in the first place was because just we as the readers did not have all the answers to the mystery.
Yep.
But this feels more like close to the kind of Flash run weirdness, which I've made that comparison before, and then I went back on that saying like that was unfair to the Flash because that's way more interesting. But now I think that comparison is actually very relevant again, because there's a lot of really, really kind of out there new concepts that are thrown at the wall in this issue, and I think it does kind of crumble a little bit underneath that because it's kind of a lot, but I think a lot of those ideas on their own are very cool. For instance, the front door cabaret, love that concept. Straight up, think it's very cool. I think the setup that it sets up here with Lyra, with her just showing up to Steve and that whole kind of very mystical, kind of eerie sense where she's sending Steve messages and kind of saying stuff like I'll see you at 10:30, and so he's like, or I'll see you at 11, and so he's like, well, I'm gonna test this. So he hangs out with Sam and is like watching a movie, and purposely they choose a movie so that he will not be able to make it to the show. But Sam gets an alert because a cat just gave birth in his apartment, and so it set off the alarm, and so he has to leave. So then Steve goes, and so that kind of whole thing where it's like this kind of just sequence of events that keep kind of pushing Steve to this area. I think that was all really cool, really interesting. And then when Steve shows up there, that kind of eerie mystical sense is kind of gone, but there's a lot of then it just becomes this very amazing kind of full of wonder and just kind of awe at this whole scene of the actual cabaret itself. I think it was really well kind of executed throughout that entire section. I also think the interaction with the bartender at the start of Steve's visit to the cabaret is really funny. I really like that. I think because this series has tried to inject humor in fairly frequently, I think for the most part it really does not work. This is like one of the first actual like intentional jokes where I was like, that's really funny. However, this issue does lose me a little bit in like the last third, particularly once Steve goes to meet Lyra backstage, because there's a lot of fucking exposition there. Lyra essentially exposits this whole background information about this big war that happened in the past. Seemingly, I think it was in the past, although it also still seems to be going on. But the way it's framed, it feels like it happened a long time ago, and then it didn't really happen again, and now it's happening again. But it just was a little bit confusing, the timeline of it, I think. Granted, they do kind of bring back some talk of quantum moments in this issue from issue number 3, where Steve is like, at this moment I am being born, at this moment I'm fighting this army, at this moment I'm dying. So maybe that has something to do with it. And then the conflict, I guess, centers on Lyra and her brother in quotation marks.
Yes.
Because he's not actually her brother, I guess, and they may just be manifestations of life and death.
That's what I kind of got from it.
Yeah. Lyra hints that, but then she's like, I will not explain it any further because it would break mortal minds.
Yeah.
And seeing as we already have, like, I mean, you just talked about Thanos. We have an actual physical manifestation of death already, so I don't really know which one this would be, but either way, regardless, I guess her brother used to be, I guess, closer to death in the Sandman, where her brother was, I guess, kind of the person shepherding the souls of the dead to the afterlife. But with the advent of mass warfare, it kind of ended up breaking him, and so he's just like, I'm just gonna nuke the world and make a new one, just kill all life, make a new world. So Lyra does not want that. She's trying to protect the current world, seemingly mostly because of the inhabitants of the Front Door Cabaret. And this is where I also got confused, because there was apparently another Front Door Cabaret, but then that one got destroyed or something, and so there's this new one, and it's been operating for a while, but then that's the point where it was like, between the Front Door Cabaret timeline and the timeline of the war, that felt like inconsistent, so I was a little bit confused by that. Regardless, Lyra's brothers, I don't know if you can tell, this is a lot of fucking information, by the way, everybody listening.
Yes.
And I'm not done. Lyra's brothers also trying to eliminate change agents, which we learned a lot about in the last arc. Steve is one of them himself. Yes. So I guess Asmodee was kind of his right-hand demon. And with him now having been defeated by Steve, the brother himself is now getting involved on his own. So now Steve has to find some guy, I guess, who is a change agent, and who Steve will apparently know when he sees this person. And Lyra just doesn't give him any more information on this either. And then it's just suddenly like Lyra's just like, all right, Steve, they're here. It's time for the big battle. And that's the cliffhanger. And it kind of comes out of nowhere. So that's a lot of fucking shit in this issue. And a lot of it is interesting. However, that's not even mentioned, by the way, that there was a city that was older than creation, which already fell in an earlier part of the conflict. I kind of just completely brushed over that. And Lyra's job appears to be shepherding Front Door Cabaret people to the new one, like people who would be like fit in with the Front Door Cabaret to like get them there. So it's a lot of information, and it's all delivered very quickly and in a very heavy info dump style, where I just feel like it got kind of overwhelming. I think the backstory would have been more effective. Like, you could have put this in an entire separate issue, just the backstory. Have that be the entire issue, and like, sure, Captain America would not play a very big role in that issue, but I think it would be helpful to actually see this stuff instead of just having Lyra just spout a wall of tech status about it. Because I think the concept, interesting. I like the ideas, but I think the actually seeing it would have helped to understand it. That being said, there is stuff in that back part of the issue I like. There's essentially there's a really good line in there where Lyra was saying, like, because when Cap first goes there, he didn't go to the cabaret in his Captain America suit, but when he goes to the backstage area, he just is suddenly in it. And there's a really good line where Lyra's saying, like, you are always the suit. Like, the suit is always inside you. I just brought it out of you to the surface. I think that was really good. Regardless, I like this issue. I think the first 2/3 are really good, actually. And while I do think that it slips in the back a little bit, I do still think the concepts here are all interesting, as I said, even though I don't think they're all delivered in the best way. I do think this is pretty easily the best issue of the run so far, and I am genuinely really interested to see where it goes. So, yeah, cool stuff. Looks like probably a big battle issue next issue, unless you just skip it. But I do think this was a really solid improvement for the most part. Concepts were cool, and I think the execution was better.
Yeah, no, it was a lot. I mean, a lot of the stuff you said, I somehow missed. Like the fact that he has to find another change agent.
Yep.
Or in general, what the fuck change agents even are. See, I had read that, like, Asmodee had something to do with death, right? And with him having defeated that, he set in motion this war. And with defeating him, he had like unreleased an energy, and that's why his shield looks like kind of like a crystal-ish. I don't know.
Yeah,
it looks
totally
weird.
Even mentioned that. Yeah, I don't remember why
different.
that was though.
Yeah, I don't remember that. The whole I don't know. It's just weird. Because I still just don't feel like this is like very Captain America-y. I don't
That is
know,
fair.
man.
I was gonna bring that up as well because I think this would be like a fantastic Doctor Strange series.
Yeah, like I think they're throwing him into like these super magic things that I'm just like,
yeah.
that's it's not Cap, and I don't know if they're like just throwing him into spots where he just needs to be like righteous and stuff like that. I mean, like at this point, it's just this storyline, it's just how they're doing it. But
I will say, I think it's fair to want to put Captain America in a different situation like this and throw him into a situation that's very mystical to make him out of his element.
Yeah.
But I agree that I have been feeling that same thing though. So I don't know if maybe this is just not the right story to put him out of his element in.
Yeah, exactly. Like it seems weird. Like the last one, at least they like paired it with Nazis, and his like youth in a sense. But this one just seems super out of his element in like all regards at this point. I don't have a lot to say on this one because it was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot. Like the whole cabaret bit, I kind of got confused on. I was like, okay, what exactly is this supposed to be? And then they went backstage, or he went backstage, and that she explained the whole war and stuff like that. And yeah, I don't know, man. It was a lot. I mean, it intrigued me enough to say like more than the first arc. This one definitely intrigued me a bit more.
Yeah.
Simply, I honestly, I want to say simply because of like the personifications of like life and death type thing and the war between them. So like, well, is it a new war? I don't know. Is it a new battle?
That's the thing. Say. I know. Yeah. I think it's very confusing the way the timeline is.
But yeah, I'm not intrigued as to where it's going, but it definitely interested me more than the way the first arc started.
So, question for you: am I gonna have to make you read issue 8, or will you read issue 8 on your own?
I'll give it to you. I'll pull this next one. Yeah. I mean, I gave it a 7.
I also gave it a 7. Yeah, I'm genuinely like I was hoping this new arc would be something that got me more invested in it, and it definitely has. I'm definitely much more. I definitely feel like I may actually end up genuinely enjoying the next arc as opposed to just being like, ugh, God, So
yeah.
I also gave it 7. Yeah, I think it was not bad. Let's do Avengers.
Avengers.
This is Avengers number 11, written by Jed MacKay. The artist is Ivan Fiorelli. So pretty good. I do have a problem with this issue though.
Oh.
I fucking hate the Mad Thinker. So this issue had an uphill battle because I do not like that character. He's not in it much.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough. That's tough.
I would say I really like the first. This is kind of an inversion of the last issue of the series, I think, for me, because I really like the first half. Didn't love the second half. I think what I liked about this issue the most is something that I have been pleading for the series to include for the entire run.
Yeah.
And that is we finally had some fucking character interactions and personal like dynamics and interplay between characters. Well, like, finally. Thank you. It's a team book. I want to see fucking team interaction. Not all of it worked for me. I think the interaction between Thor and Black Panther was a little bit weird.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, there was one other. What was the other one that I didn't love? I think it was also between Black Panther and someone else. I think Black Panther's characterization has been a little bit strange in this run, actually. He's kind of like quipping a lot.
He's very detached.
But like, I liked. Just before this has been like, we've just had like the only dynamics have been like Captain Marvel giving orders to people, and that's kind of it, or just like people yelling at each other through the fights. But like, I liked we had a good scene of like Captain Marvel and Iron Man discussing strategy against Orcus, which will be coming into play in the next arc, which I will not be reading alongside Sebastian for this one. I'm dropping off after this issue briefly until I catch back up with the series with the other X-Men stuff. So I think that was really interesting. I think that was like good, dynamics there. I think they were both, written well in character. I think they were really bouncing off each other well. And I also really like there's a fun little sequence where Vision and Scarlet Witch are talking. I did not. I don't think I might have known this, but I did not remember that they were not currently together.
Yeah.
So they're just like talking like one is like, yeah, I just almost went on a date with Loki, and Vision's kind of making jokes. He's like, sorry, I know I can't physically eat, but like the thought of Loki just going on a date with anyone is so disgusting that I just felt like I had to retch there. So like that was fun. I do think once the plastic people take over the ship, it loses me a little bit. But however, I think the actual best dynamic of the issue was between Jarvis and the Impossible City. I think that was really fun. There's a good sequence there where essentially Jarvis is teaching the city how to take care of the Avengers, and so there's a point where Jarvis is teaching the city how to like cook some stuff, and the city's just like loving. He's like, "Yeah, give me more. I want to learn more stuff." And there's I think a really effective line where the city is like, "Yeah, I spent so long being forced to just destroy everything by the Ashen Combine."
Yeah.
And the city was like, it's just nice to be able to just like create something for once. So I think their little dynamic worked really well. But yeah, the actual fight with the plastic people is just kind of whatever. I don't really care about that too much. This did kind of feel like this is something that I think I've kind of realized recently, and it might explain the problem we had with the first couple arcs, because I think they kind of, especially the last arc, there were a couple issues in there where I was like, did we need that one? Like, I don't know. This felt like it was a stretched out fight for no reason. However, that might have been because they knew that they didn't have time to start another new arc, because really, there's this one-off, then we have 2 issues of an X-Men tie-in, then at least, like, 2 to 3 issues of Blood Hunt tie-in. So I think they were like, we don't have time to start a new arc, then we have 2 other tie-in stuff, so we don't want to start another arc and then have that split it down the middle, because there's a lot of time in between those places. So I think they're just like, we have to just stretch this out a little bit. Until Blood Hunt is over, so then we can get back to the normal stuff. That feels like that would explain some of the pacing issues I think this book has had. I don't know if that's true, but that was just my kind of thoughts on that. But regardless, I think as a one-off, this works very well. I liked the issue quite a bit. I didn't love the fight, as I said, and I also don't love the Mad Thinker, so that did ding it for me a little bit. But other than that, I think it was pretty solid. It was definitely, I felt like the complaints I had were finally being addressed, which I was very happy about.
Yeah. I was when you said the you don't like the Mad Thinker, I was gonna be like, but he's like not even the main villain, but like he is.
He kind of is, yeah. He's not on panel a lot, but he
is the main villain of this issue because he made the Plastoid Men and stuff. So I was like, my argument's gonna fall apart there. So I'm not gonna say anything, but I don't entirely agree with you with the fight thing. Simply because we finally get another fight where they actually fight as a team rather than if they separated them again, like, all right, I'm gonna take these guys over here, like, god damn it, like, please. They actually fought as a team this time, like that's finally.
I think for me it was just I don't think the things they were fighting were very interesting, is what it came down to.
No, I mean it definitely didn't seem like it was that big of a problem. I will admit, like, they're plastic men that like didn't seem that dangerous. Like obviously for Jarvis and Mr. Sweeney, I think is what his name was.
Yep.
Obviously for them, that's like a big problem. But like for the Avengers, this is not an Avengers level threat. It's really not that big of a deal. So like, yes, I will admit that like, the whole plan. I don't know what his. Well, actually, no, I know what his plan is. Obviously, which he succeeded in. He just wanted to know where the Ashen Combine were being held, which he found out, and so his plan technically did succeed. But like, the plastoids are not big a threat. I liked the I especially loved just the dynamic between everybody in this issue, especially with Jarvis in the mix. Like when they when Jarvis and Sweeney were running away from the plastoids and they kept talking about their favorite foods. It's really funny. Like Thor really likes mutton, and Mr. Sweeney found like a really, really great meat place. I don't remember a lot of the other ones, I'll be honest. But just the whole dynamic that they have with Jarvis too is really funny. But yeah, I like how they finally, like you said, interacted with one another. So nice. It's
I know. Which is, by the way, it should not have taken 11 issues. Like, it is wild that it took this long for the team to interact with each other in a meaningful way. So, yeah. I mean, like, I'm happy it happened, but it's like, why the fuck did it take you this long to do that?
But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it for what it was. I thought it was really good. I thought it was a fun read. And I gave it an 8.
I gave it a 7. I initially was gonna give it an 8, but I did just kind of feel that back half I was not really feeling as much. So, I went with 7.
Yeah, see, I don't really know about the Mad Thinker, so
yeah, he sucks.
Batman.
Okay, This is Batman number 145, written by Chip Zdarsky. The artist is Jorge Jimenez. He's back on the art on this one. And there's also a backup story, which is also written by Chip Zdarsky, but the artist is Michelle Bandini. Okay. So, first of all, I just want to say there's been too many Batman issues lately.
There's been a lot.
This is the 4th core Batman issue in the past 5 weeks. So after 3 weeks in a row of Joker Year 1, there was 1 week off, and then it's this. And I didn't think Joker Year 1 was particularly good. And I think on top of that, it actually made this issue worse, I think. Because this issue, I started to get a lot of fatigue with Failsafe and Zur. And I don't know why here is the place where that happened. Because they've been around for a while now, but I think here's what I think happened. So first of all, this arc has kind of been going on since the start of this run. This run started in July of 2022. It is now, at time of recording, March of 2024. So that's almost 2 years. Not quite, but it's like a year and 3/4. That's a long time. And yes, there were arcs in between, of course, where there was nothing to do with Failsafe or Zur. There was, of course, the Batman of Gotham arc where he goes to the multiverse and everything. Problem is, I didn't like that arc very much. Then there was Gotham War, which did have some Zur stuff in it, but also I didn't like Gotham War that much either. And then we went straight back into the Zur Failsafe stuff. So there's really only one arc that had nothing to do with Zur and Failsafe. Okay, never mind. Sorry, there's 2, including Joker Year 1, which also I didn't think was all that great. So the 2 arcs that have not had to do with Zur or Failsafe, I think were not very good. The ones that did have heavier focus on those 2, I think have been good. The problem is there's a lot of them. It's just been dragging on for a while. And I think the reason I'm feeling it here in particular is because Joker War interrupted it. I think if we had gone straight into it, I would not have felt that as much. But because there was Joker War in between, I think my brain associates this as another arc. And it kind of is, but it's still very much a continuation of the previous arc, but it is kind of another arc as on its own thing. I think if they had mushed them together, I wouldn't have felt that as much. But because they separated them, I feel like I feel it more. Which actually feels like it should be the opposite. And I think that's why they put Joker Year 1 in the middle, because then it breaks up the Failsafe and Zur stuff to give some variety. However, to me, then it also makes it drag on longer. So I think if they just put this arc at the end of the last one, then it would have worked better, I think, and I would have felt less fatigued with it. After having Joker War, or I keep calling it Joker War, Joker Year 1. After that, coming back to this, I was like, oh god, we're back to Zur again, and we're back to Failsafe again. So I'm feeling pretty over this whole Failsafe and Zur thing. Now, that was a lot of complaining. I want to be clear. I think this issue on its own is pretty good, actually. Not amazing, but I think it's solid. The problem I have is not with the individual issue to issue stuff. I just think the arc layout and the dragging onto this plot is just kind of starting to wear me out a little bit. So I don't even know. I don't have much to say on the actual plot. It's fine. Like, Zur is now out there in Failsafe's body, kind of posing as Bruce.
Yes.
And kind of like taking over the city. So a lot of the Bat family's like, we gotta take him down and all that stuff. So that's kind of what a lot of this issue is. I don't know. So that's essentially all my thoughts is this kind of art-based stuff. As far as the individual issue goes, solid, I think for sure. But I don't have much to say on it besides that.
Yeah, I think it's just the fact that like they keep like Failsafe and Zur just keep coming back, even though Batman thinks he's finally dealt with it. They just like appear literally like the next issue, and it's just like all of a sudden it's them again. It's just like, okay, but how many times can it be them again? Like it's just at this point it's like you said, it's a very reoccurring thing. It's kind of getting overdone. Like it's like first it was Failsafe, then we realized it was Zur behind Failsafe, and now it's Zur and Failsafe.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, well, and then also the person who trained Bruce and Joker, we learn is not dead.
Which I was like, what? How?
Yeah,
Got his fucking neck sliced open.
Yeah. Apparently Joker's like, well, okay, so that kind of confused me because the second in the backup story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Joker had him in like a cage and he was like his therapist or whatever.
Yeah.
But then in this one, he's the like warden of that underground prison that they're in or whatever. I don't know.
I'm
why
assuming that
came
was just
up.
a slightly like flashback
Mm.
sequence there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the backup story was, yeah, but
Yeah,
when
right.
they're
So I'm
when
assuming that was just it, and then yeah, then just put him in charge of it. Because I think their trainers, I think their trainer is in a unique position of both not liking Bruce, but wanting to see what both him and the Joker do. So I think he was just like he'll be a good pick for that.
yeah, because it was Zur that put him in that position, if I remember correctly. Or failsafe, whatever.
Oh
They're the
yeah,
same.
no, you're right. Yeah. I
Yeah.
for some reason thought it was the Joker who put him there.
Yeah,
But
no, that's where I was like, I don't
yeah,
know when that all, like, if Joker freed him or if he escaped or if Zur freed
yeah.
him. I don't know, whatever. But it's another time. I'm not gonna think about it too hard. Yeah, I don't know. There was, oh god, he talked to the fake Zur, not fake Batman, but Zur talked to Damien, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and so
Um,
he talked to Jason as well. Jason didn't fall
that's
for
right.
Damien. Yeah.
Yes, Jason. He also talked to Jason. I don't know, man. It's a bit, it's repetitive.
Yeah.
It's repetitive at this point. Like I'm ready for Zur to be over, I think.
Yeah. Well, my concern is that this run will end with the Zur stuff, the Zur and failsafe stuff, and then that'll be like all that Chip Zdarsky did on Batman. I want to see him do some other stuff. And I know, like, to be fair, I know that the two arcs that he did do other stuff are two that I just said I don't like. But I just still want him to, like, I want to see him do more than just the Zur storyline over and over.
Yeah. I don't know. I gave it a 7.
Yeah, I also have it as a 7. I had it an 8 initially, but yeah, I've dropped it. I think it's also like it's so wild because you look at this, right?
Yes.
And then you look at his Daredevil, or if you want a more recent example that Sebastian's read, Avengers Twilight, which is fucking amazing.
So
and it's like
good.
I think like he can really, really do some fucking fantastic stuff with Batman. It just hasn't happened yet. I've seen a lot of people posing the idea that this could very well be down to editorial decisions, which is definitely possible. I don't know too much about the behind the scenes stuff, but if that's the case, that's a real shame. Because I think like if you just let Chip loose and do his own thing for this, he could have gotten one of the all-time great Batman runs. As it is, I think this run will be pretty fucking forgettable when it's over. Like and maybe he'll turn around. Maybe he has a whole bunch of other stuff planned down the line. But as of right now,
for me, failsafe will be more forgettable than Zur. I think the Zur, like plainly Zur, is more interesting than the failsafe, even though Zur created failsailsafe.
I don't know if
I think that's just the whole second like mind thing for me is more intriguing.
I don't know. I think it could go either way. I think they're about the same level. Because I was gonna say like failsafe is new. Technically Zur is not, but this version of Zur is pretty new as far as I'm aware. So I don't know if that's a great comparison. But regardless, I don't know. I think both of them are kind of on the same level. I just think this run will be looked back on with kind of just like a shrug and being like, oh yeah, Chip Zdarsky wrote a Batman run and it was just kind of existed, huh?
Yeah.
So yeah, 7 out of 10 for me as well. Real shame, but yeah. I mean, I hope it turns around, but this is I'm getting sick of Zur. And that leaves us with Birds of Prey number 7. The start of a new arc here, written by Kelly Thompson. The artist is Javier Pina. Right off the bat, was there a new artist this issue or not?
Yes.
Okay, I feel like you didn't know that, and that was just because I asked you that. It kind of
no, I noticed. I noticed. I actually did notice.
Really? Okay.
Yes, I noticed.
I was going to say, this feels pretty stylistically consistent to Leonardo Romero's stuff.
Yes, it was, but there was one part where I noticed it was Barbara's face, and it looked more Play-Doh-y than usual. And I checked, and there was different artists.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I was gonna say I think the artwork's a little bit better here, not because the pencils
I'm not bashing it. I'm just saying I noticed it because of that.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, Jordi Belaire's colors fit this penciling style better than they fit Leonardo Romero's penciling style. I found this issue a lot easier to figure out what was going on visually. Yes. It did not feel as like just one shade across the board. That was good. So I think, here's what I think, Sebastian. I am now of the opinion that when this series is good, I think it's the best series that DC's putting out.
Oh.
Well, that being said, I do think the quality of the series is pretty inconsistent, unfortunately. I only, as you know if you've been listening, I only liked about half the issues in the first arc. And even like a couple issues ago, I was thinking about dropping it.
Yeah, he was.
However, I do think this is one of the good ones, and I think that makes it what I think is the second good one in a row. And yeah, I think just when this series works, it's the best series there is at DC. I think it's just I think it is. I think it's tricky because I think like Superman's really good, but Superman I think is like the last issue I didn't love, and I do think Superman has more lows than Birds of Prey has had. So like, I just think like this series is really fun. It's just a fun little like heist series a lot of the time. Yeah. I think when it's good, it's paced really well. I think the dialogue all flows and is snappy and feels very fun and energetic to read. And this issue is also like they're doing a bit of a heist, kind of. The first half is like it's mostly like two halves. The first half is Dinah and Maps finally looping Barbara into the whole situation. Yes. And figuring out the person going after her and all the birds is using the red to do it, which is adjacent to the green, which is what Swamp Thing kind of has control over.
And Poison Ivy.
Yes, you're right. Yeah. There's also a really fun training sequence where Barda and Cassandra Cain are training Sin, Dinah's sister. That's just really fun. I like the dynamic there a lot. Yes. And then the second half is the team going to Vixen to ask for her help in dealing with the whole situation there, because I guess she's somehow tied into the red.
She was also at Birds of Prey in the past.
Well, there was that, but I think she also has some knowledge on the red.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. She has some knowledge on the red. And then they figured out that they're going after all the Birds of Prey because she's been having problems with everybody that wears her line of clothing gets arrested.
Yeah, well, not even just that. Just it's more that like everybody who wears Vixen's clothing line ends up waking up in the middle of a sleepwalking robbery, essentially, where they're just going and stealing stuff. So what it is, that's so I don't think most people wake up actually, but Vixen did wake up. She has powers over the red, so.
Oh, that's right.
Right, so she woke up in the middle of herself doing a heist on somebody else and was like, "What the fuck?" So that's kind of the implication there. Is that everybody who's done that has, it just ends up doing a robbery while asleep. So yeah, so Vixen is like, I will help the Birds of Prey with this if they help me with this, the clothing robbery issue. That's kind of where it ends. They pose a scheme that I just all wear some of her clothes and see if they end up doing a robbery. I guess is kind of the implication.
It was I think it was like a private show or something. I couldn't tell exactly.
Yeah, I don't know, but anyway, I just really like. I think it's a really fun issue that manages to keep up the momentum from last issue really well.
Yes,
even if it is also kind of a transition issue into this other arc, which is also kind of transitioning into a bit of a side quest story. But that being said, I mean, I have no problem with side quest arcs if they're just kind of well executed, and this one is so far. I think it's really looking like it's gonna be fun. I think the dynamic is all really interesting. I like that they're changing up the team layout as well, because Harley is off the team in this one, and Vixen is on. So I think that's really fun as well. The team dynamic switching the lineup, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. I had a lot of fun with this one. Yeah, it was almost my pick of the week.
Me too. I like this one a lot too. It was very good. I like the dynamic. I don't understand why they put Batgirl costume in the cover.
I think Barbara just does Oracle mode for this one.
Yeah. She literally all she does. But yeah, I don't know. I gave it an 8.
I was giving it an 8. Okay, well, that is a wrap on this issue. I think on this episode, I noticed I did that last episode. In the outro, I only said this issue is over. I didn't say episode at all. So anyway, next week, that is a wrap on this episode of the show. Next week we will be talking about a bunch of stuff. We have another issue of Avengers Twilight, quick turnaround there. New issue of Darkrai. That series is wrapping up soon here. An issue of Action Comics. I almost didn't even pick this one up because I'm not sure if I'm loving this art anymore, but whatever. An issue of Green Lantern. That series has been really good lately. I'm really looking forward to seeing this one. New issue of Immortal Thor. Another quick turnaround there. Looking forward to seeing kind of what the whole deal with Gaia is, and that's that thing with Thor. There's a new indie series from Image from Rick Remender, who is the writer on this one. He is also the same writer that is writing The Sacrificers. It's called Napalm Lullaby, which I'm looking forward to. I'm going to be checking that one out for sure. There's also a new series from Tom King, an indie series over at Dark Horse, I believe, called Helen of Windhorn. It's the same creative team that did. It's Tom King and the same artist that did the Supergirl, the Woman of Tomorrow limited series from a couple of years ago, which is apparently very good. I'm going to check that one out as well. Then also a new issue to The One Hand and Transformers and Ultimate Black Panther is what I'm going to have to shout out here. What are you shouting out on your end?
Spider-Gwen Smash.
Yes.
Batman and Robin.
Not going to shout out What If Venom.
No, I'm not gonna shout that one out, honestly.
Okay, fair enough. Anyway, though, yeah, as mentioned, that will wrap up the episode. Thank you everybody for watching or listening on whatever platform you may be on. If you are on YouTube, you can, of course, like the video if you enjoy the video. You can also subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of our epic podcast videos. You can also hit the bell notification if you don't want to miss any of our epic podcast videos. God, I fucking hate this. If you want to leave a comment, you can do so as well. Let us know what you think about the current state of comics and some of the stuff you are enjoying. Or maybe you're not enjoying other stuff you are looking forward to. Just so you know, you, the listeners, and Sebastian cannot see this, but I'm doing fucking mad finger guns right now. I don't know why. We don't do face cam, so nobody can see this. So if you're on Spotify and you want to listen to anything about comics lately, you can do so at our email address. That is earthsmightestcommicspod@gmail.com. That is all one word. And you can also follow the show over there as well if you don't want to miss any episodes over on Spotify as well. So yeah, thank you again everybody for watching or listening as always, and we'll see you in the next episode.